In this video we'll see how to use MetEye to access the latest weather observations from the Weather Bureau. So straight off the Bureau's homepage we'll go to the MetEye link. And as MetEye starts, you'll see that we'll come up with a map of the whole country. On the left hand side we've got latest weather, and down a little further we've got forecasts, which we'll come back to in a future video. But when MetEye starts up, it always comes to the latest weather information and gives you the current temperature, and you can see when those temperatures were last updated, in this case at 2:37 p.m. When MetEye starts, it will also have the latest rain radar clicked on by default too. What I might do is clear off the temperature information, and here's the radar information. You can see around the country that there are some radar echoes showing up, showing some precipitation. I'll just point out, while I can see it too around the Catherine radar here, there's a circle indicating that that radar at the moment is not serviceable. What I might do is to, at the same time as having the radar clicked on, is to click on the current cloud cover. And having those two things switched on together gives you a feel for where the weather systems are around the country. Looks like there's a cold front down through here, producing cloud into WA and some rain. And there's a low pressure system off the east coast here, and some onshore flow onto New South Wales and Queensland, bringing at least some showers to there too. And you'll notice on both the radar information and the cloud cover information, you can see the time when that information was last updated. And the data from both of these will refresh as new data comes to hand. If we zoom in, say, around the New South Wales area, then we can still see the radar information and the cloud information too from the latest satellite photo. If we zoom in again, the radar information becomes still there, but it's just a little more pixelated, a little harder to discern, and the cloud information disappears. Zooming out again, while I've got those two things switched on, I might add to them the latest wind speed and direction in kilometres an hour across the country. And we'll take a wider view of the map. And when we switch on the winds, then we get a feel for the wind directions and speeds that are occurring right around the country. This is quite useful for when you're trying to track a wind change coming across, say, southeastern Australia into Tasmania. You'll be able to turn on these latest winds and see exactly where that wind change is, often from a northerly direction to a westerly direction. We've got a legend that comes up over here for wind speeds that allows us to use colours to match the wind speed ranges. And we've got the option of switching winds on in either kilometres an hour or in knots. Zooming into Tasmania and looking at the wind directions, I'll just turn off the current cloud cover and the radar as I do this. The arrows give you an indication of the wind direction, showing you the direction from which the wind is blowing. So in this case, on King Island at Curry, the automatic weather station there is showing a northwesterly wind, the wind blowing from the northwest. If you're not sure about any of the observations that you're looking at, you can always click on the information button, and then whichever observations you've got switched on, you'll have come up a box that will give you the definition and some other extra info about those observations too, so well worth having a look through those. Just briefly going through some of the other latest weather information that's available on MetEye. If we go back to our current temperatures, right across the country we get quite a good feel for what's going on. Temperatures in the 30s up around the tropics, but down to around 10 or so, and even closer to 0 up around elevated areas in the south. And the legend changed when we changed from winds to temperatures, and you get colours representing the temperature ranges this time. Going ahead to relative humidity, we can get a picture right across the country of the relative humidity and how it changes as you go across the country. Going on to rainfall, in this display we see the rainfall that's been recorded since 9 o'clock this morning, and again the legend has changed. So a few millimetres have fallen. I'll just switch back on the latest rain radar and the current cloud as well. And you can see that the rain is certainly falling where we're seeing it indicated on the radar and where the satellite photo has the cloud. Highest rainfall I can see since 9 o'clock looks like 8mm or so just in southern Queensland. In situations where the rainfall is fairly intense, it's actually quite useful to look at how quickly the rainfall is falling and how much has fallen in the last 10 minutes. Not much showing up around the country here, but out over here on one of the islands, there we've got 2mm of rain has fallen near that low pressure system in the last 10 minutes. We can also turn on the current sea surface temperature. To make it easier to see, I'll turn off the other overlays. And the sea surface temperature has quite a range at this time of year, starting from something like 12 degrees or so around southern Tasmania, but up in the high 20s around the Northern Territory. Clicking on the information button for sea surface temperature, it tells us that this plot has come from sensors in the ocean combined with satellite measurements, but there's been no human intervention in creating this sea surface temperature map. And the final latest weather display that we can show are the river conditions. So I'll turn off the sea surface temperatures and go to the rivers, and you can get a feel what's happening right around the country. But if we zoom into just Tasmanian rivers and take a wider look, then the box that pops up now shows that all the rivers are either grey or blue, indicating that they either have no flood classification or they're all below minor flood level. And the arrow tells us what the rivers are actually doing. So arrows pointing down, as this one is, indicate that the river's falling. Arrows pointing upwards indicate rivers rising. And arrows pointing to the right indicating that the river level is steady. On the next video we'll see how to use MetEye to obtain forecasts from the Weather Bureau. Forecasts over broad areas like a whole state.